I posted about a week or two ago about how I was going to go ahead and go through some of the comments and questions on my channel and try to do my best to answer those. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go through those, answer those questions, in somewhat of a sort of an order. But I'm going to just go ahead and randomly go through these and answer these as best as I can. So the first question we got here. Hi, I have an old set of rotring pins from the late 80s when I took drafting. I have in the set also a couple of adapters and do not know what they are for and how to use them. Would you know anything about these accessories that have a hinge and have threaded rings on them? Thank you in advance. Those sound like maybe they are more of a precise type of set of rotring pins that might be for drafting specifically, such as if you get your regular rotring pins like these and you then might have a different type of a pin in a set, so you might have ended up getting some that are for drafting, like old drafting pins that is used on a certain type of paper that they use for drafting. But I would have to look into that more and learn more about that, and I can get back to you on that later. But as of right now, I think that is what it could be. Next question was on a video I had about how to disassemble a technical pen, and the question was, I can't open my ink reservoir. It seems like stuck on or something because of dried ink. I don't use this for a year, I think. Do you know how to open it? If it's the part of open the ink reservoir, now there's different parts of the technical pen. You've got, the cap and then the barrel that comes off here. If you're talking about this reservoir part here, what you could do is soak it in warm water for 15 minutes or half an hour, and that should affect the way the plastic slightly expands, and so then you should be able to open it then. Or you could just run it under warm water. Make sure the water isn't hot, but a bit on the warm side, but you don't want the water to be too hot. And then run warm water over this part here, and then try to slowly twist and pull the cap off, or the reservoir off, and then you should be able to get that to come off of there. Next question is on the drawing tutorial how to stipple video. Can we do stippling with normal pencil? Yeah, you sure can. If you're going to do stippling, you would want to use a softer lead. And the reason for that is if you're doing a drawing of something, if you try to put soft lead over hard lead, you're going to get it's going to be a shine on the paper that you'll see when you move the paper. And what will happen then is you're not going to be able to put the soft lead on top of it. But you can put, if I remember this correctly, you can put harder leads on top of softer leads, but you can't put soft leads on top of harder leads. Such as if you used a 9X pencil, which is really, really dark, or an 8B, and tried to put that over something like a 6H or a 9H pencil. The darker the pencil is, the softer the lead is. So if you do a soft lead on top of a hard lead, it's not going to really go over it, but you can put a hard one over a soft one. So for stippling, it would probably be better to use a softer lead, like something like a 2B or higher, because if you're using a harder lead when you're stippling on the paper, it's not going to show up very well. And because you do have a harder lead, it's going to possibly damage the paper depending on how you're doing a stippling. If you have a really soft paper or a thick paper, or you have a sketchbook and you're doing a lot of stippling with hard lead, it's going to cause indentations into the paper, so the pages after that are going to have little dots in it. So you can stipple with normal pencil, but I would advise using something like a 2B or darker pencil. Let's see here. Next question. Well, it's not really a question, that's just a regular comment, but I'll read it. It was on the video drawing tutorial, how to doodle the hatch stipple method. And they said, the sound of rain is nice touch, or is it baking frying in a pan? I haven't had baking in a long time. Next question was on the mechanical pencil versus wooden pencil, which one to use? Let's compare. And the question was, can you make a tutorial on how to shade using a mechanical pencil? Not the actual shade, but like the lines and short drawings. Yeah, I could do that. Although I haven't really done much drawing with mechanical pencils. I mostly worked with the traditional type of pencils. Although I do have the Unicura Toga mechanical pencil, the one that the lead rotates and always keeps a sharp edge. I've had a bit more practice with that one compared to any other technical pencil I've drawn with, so I definitely could make a video in the future of how to do shading with the mechanical pencil. Let's see here. Next question was about why the sound of frying bacon. Again, I wasn't making any bacon, and I haven't had any in quite a while. Although I do make eggs for breakfast sometimes. But I don't actually have anything frying because I disconnected my gas stove because it makes my apartment hot. I've just been using my it's like a slow cooker for a lot of my cooking. Next question is on Return of the Doodler, Staedtler Marsmatic Isograph. And the question was, how does the Marsmatic compare to the isograph? So I do have the Marsmatic right here, and this is the Rotring isograph. I noticed that Staedtler Marsmatic, the ink flows a little bit quicker than what you get with the Rotrings. And with the Rotrings, I noticed that anything below 0.35, they seem to clog often. And I've had this one for over a year, had no issues with it. But I do always clean them after every use. Once the ink in this side of this, I'll open it up and show you. The reservoir. So this one's mostly filled up with ink. Once the ink is completely empty in this, I take the end of this off. I mean, I'm not going to do it right now. But I take the reservoir off when it's completely empty, and I rinse out the whole pen in water. And you can get a cleaning solution for the pens, the Rotrings, and that'll also work. You can just find it online. Just type in technical pen cleaning solution or Rotring pen cleaning solution. That should give you the results. And I don't have to use pen cleaning solution that often because as soon as these run out, I always rinse it under water. I soak it in water for half an hour. I then run it under water, and I shake the tip of the pen. Like, let me think if how to explain this. One moment, I got one over here. So this is one of my Rotrings. So what I do is I have it running underwater, and I take this part here, and when the water is running under it, I like that. I move it around, I shake it, I put it under the water again, and sometimes I'll let it water run into it, and then I'll take the nib of the pen like this, and I'll blow air into it to force any ink out of it, and I'll put it under the water again, let it run, blow into this to force the ink out. Then I'll tip it over, run water that way, and I'll kind of alternate. Then let it soak for another 30 minutes, rinse it, and then I can start doodling them. So that should answer that question, I think. I think so. Is there anything else about it? Other than the ink flow, I don't know how to compare the different nib sizes between these two pens, because this is the only size of the Marsmatic that I have, and it's the preferred size that I like to draw with these. If I'm drawing on something that I want to spend over 10 hours, and I'll draw something smaller than a 0.35, like this 0.18. But generally I draw with the 0.35. That's my preferred nib size, but the ink does flow a little bit faster from this nib. I'm not sure that's going to affect you with drawing, but I kind of prefer that in a lot of ways, because I tend to draw and scribble real quickly. But if you're wanting something that's more steady ink flow that isn't too fast, then I would go with the Rotring. But if you want something where the ink flows a lot quicker, then I would go with the Marsmatic. I think a good midpoint would be if you got a Staedtler Marsmatic 0.25, but that depends on the line width that you're wanting. So you could probably get these in a set, which I think comes with like 0.25, 0.35, 5, and 7. You could go that route and get all 4 of them, just so that you have all the nib sizes. That, let's say for example, if you buy one of these, it's going to cost way more buying each of these individually than it is to buy the whole set. So if you do plan on doing a lot of drawing, go ahead and just buy the whole set, which I know it includes at least 3. I'm pretty sure it includes 4 of these pens: 0.25, 0.35, 5, and 7. Because if you get each of these pens individually, they're $30 each, which comes to $120 plus tax. And if you buy the whole set, you can get them for around $30 less. Sometimes you can find it on different sites for cheaper, but it's probably a lot cheaper just to buy the whole set. So then, if you do get the 0.35 and you think the line width's too wide, then you will have the other 3 pen sizes to choose from. And let's say if you get the 0.35 and it's too narrow for you, then you've got the 0.5. So you've got the one smaller and 2 larger. And if you end up getting one, let's say you buy the 0.25, you just get 1 pen at a time, which is going to cost you more. And then you end up having to buy the 0.35. Then that's going to cost you $60 already. So then you're already getting up to the cost of buying a whole set of 4, which includes ink a lot of the times. So that just depends on how you want to draw. You can go with either of the pens. I like both of the pens, but if you want faster ink flow, go with this. If you want the go-to original technical pen that everybody knows about, that is easier to get parts for, and to get nibs and to replace parts on it, because it's more widely used, I would go with this one. So next question, let's see here. And this is on the Sharpie marker doodle and Daily Rowney sketchbook. Does it bleed a lot? Because I got the same sketchbook, but just a bigger size. I never noticed it bleeding through the paper onto the next page. If I used a lot of ink, it might a little bit. But I did notice that this paper is, it's really absorbent with markers. And I ended up going through markers a lot quicker than I do with other sketchbooks. And the paper is a lot rougher than most sketchbooks. So if I'm drawing with a marker in it, then I'm going to go through markers a lot faster than I do with other sketchbooks. So it doesn't really bleed that much, but it's not really a professional type of paper. if you're wanting finished artwork. It's good for sketching and making quick doodles in. And I just got this sketchbook as something that I can compare to my more expensive ones. And I just wanted something I could fill up really quick and get done. But as far as feathering in the sketchbook, it does feather a little bit, and that's because it's a cheaper paper. But I think it's okay for somebody that's, a beginner, or somebody that's novice or just getting started, or anybody that just wants a cheap sketchbook that they can just scribble in that doesn't cost that much. Next question is Sharpie comparison, Sharpie Ultra Fine Point Marker versus Sharpie Pen. Is the Ultra Fine Point Marker good on fabric? I don't think I've used the Ultra Fine Point Marker on fabric, but I think it would work. But I think the only way it would work that well is if you're really holding the fabric good and then drawing the lines, because the tip of the ultra fine point is a lot finer than your regular Sharpie. So when you're drawing on something like a fabric, it's going to make it more difficult to actually get the lines on there properly, because when you go to draw on it with the ultra fine point, I think what's going to happen is it's going to catch on the fabric and drag across. Unless it's a hard surface like a hat, there might not be much of an issue, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Sharpies do wash out some. Like if you do a drawing on a shirt with just a regular Sharpie, I know that some of the ink will wash out of it. So if you do an elaborate detailed doodle on a shirt with it, and if you wash the shirt, I'm pretty sure it will wash out. And I got the same question, which was on how to draw with Sharpie, and if it's good on fabric. I think it would do okay on fabric, but if it's something that you ever wash, it's going to fade some of the Sharpie lines that you've drawn on there. So it should be okay if it's, say you draw on a shirt that you just hang up somewhere, that should be fine. But if it's something that you wash, I'm pretty sure that some of the ink will wash out of it. Next question is on fountain pen ink stippling, inspiring creativity in others. Can you make smaller dots than that with fountain pens like you can with fine liner? Yeah, but it just depends on the nib size of the fountain pen. Because the Lamy Safari that I draw with is an extra fine point, and the Smooji pen that I have here is fine point. But one thing you can do to get more finer dots for stippling is, let's say you have a fountain pen that's an extra fine point. If you hold it more upright and you just go like that, like just barely touch and do it quickly, you'll get smaller dots than you will if you hold it at this angle that I've noticed. Because the more you have it like this, the more that pushes the what do you call this part? I always forget words that I should know. But this little middle part here, the on the fountain pen, this nib part, when you are drawing, if you have the pen at an angle and press, it releases more ink. If you have it more upright, it doesn't bend as much, so it doesn't let out as much ink. So what you could do is hold a fountain pen more upright, get one that's fine point. You don't have to hold it directly vertically. I mean, you could, but the more upright you hold it, the finer the dots are going to be. So get an extra fine and hold it not vertically like how I use it with a rotating isograph. I usually draw like that with the rotating isograph. But if you hold it kind of upright, maybe a little bit of an angle, and just stipple that way, you can get a lot of really fine detailed dots. Let's see. How to draw with rotating isograph pen. and the question was, I do have a question. Would you use the roaching with Tomoe River paper? I think it should, although I don't know what Tomoe River paper is. Let me look this up here. Tomoe River paper. I've never used it before. Let's see here. It's 52 GSM paper. It's more of a cream color than white. Yeah, I've never used these before, but they look like something that's for fountain pens. I'd have to buy one of them sometime and test it, because I've never used it before. Let me see if I can find more information on it. Yeah, it looks like it's A5 notebook size, 52 GSM, and they're usually like $15. I wonder how many pages. Yeah, they look like they're good for fountain pens. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of drawings, and everything with them shows fountain pens. So I'm pretty sure it'll work. 'Cause I mean, anything that is really good for a fountain pen, especially if it's smooth paper, is going to work for a roaching isograph. The smoother the paper for these pens, the better. If it's paper that isn't rough, I would not advise drawing with a roaching isograph in it. It's just not going to work. The nib's going to catch, and it's going to break the pen. So I think Tomoe River paper should work as long as it's pretty smooth. And it looks like it is. For what I'm seeing here. Yeah, I think it should be fine. It looks kind of like one of my Fabriano sketchbooks as smooth paper. Although, depending on the thickness of the paper, you might get bleed through. Although I've never, as I said, I've never had one of these sketchbooks to test that. But if you can draw with fountain pens on it, I'm pretty sure you should be okay. I don't think it's going to bleed through. And it seems like a smooth paper that'll work perfectly fine for drawing with roaching isographs. And let's see here. The next question was on drawing every day. Let's doodle intricate drawing with technical pen. And they said the white background makes the doodle really pop. Is there any meaning in the words, or are they just for aesthetic purposes? Let me see what video, because I make so many videos and I can never remember what I've made. Let's see here. Yeah, that was from one of my live stream videos that I did. Sometimes they have meaning. It kind of just depends on what's on my mind. Sometimes I draw more kind of scary type of stuff, or art that seems more emotional. It just depends on my style. It kind of changes from month to month. But I think probably at that time I might have been stressed maybe, or not stressed in a way that I was unhappy, but that I had a lot going on. So my mind was kind of all over. So I'll end up making my drawing kind of like that. But I would say that for those, it could be for aesthetic reasons, or it could be for just depending on what I was wanting to make, which most of the time I've no idea what I'm drawing. It's just completely random. So next question was on the ballpoint pen versus gel pens. Quick guide, comparison, and review. Is Montex paper point a gel pen? I'm trying to figure out what I'm being asked here. I'm not sure what Montex paper point is. I will have to look into that. And when I figure that out, I will let you know. But at the current time, I have no idea what that is. But I will try to get to that as soon as I can.